Hello everyone, this is Jonathan Hash and today I'm presenting my Turning the Book on its Head video. I will be using this single-page collection of original artwork, symbols, and quotes to give a multimodal analysis of The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, and hopefully unpack what it is about this book that resists being a single story. The Outsiders is set in rural Oklahoma in the 1960s. The story revolves around Ponyboy Curtis and his relationship within his gang of greasers. The conflict in this book is between two rival gangs that represent two different socioeconomic classes. The greasers from the poor part of town, literally from the wrong side of the tracks, and the Socias, the wealthy privileged youth from the rich part of town. Frequent physical altercations between these two rival groups is common, but come to a head when Ponyboy and his friend Johnny are being savagely beaten, and Johnny kills a Soc named Bob. Ponyboy and Johnny are then forced to flee the town and lie low in the countryside. One of the reasons I chose this book to turn on its head was that it was perhaps the first book written for young adults that defied the safe and normal conventions that were then the norm. The norms that featured all white, all upper middle class protagonists with safe plots and happy endings. Instead, Hinton chose to cast a disreputable greaser as her protagonist and the upper class as the foes. This novel defied the single story of young adults in America and offered a counter-narrative that showed the effects of caste inequality and gave us a window into the trials of a marginalized subculture. This story turned an entire genre on its head and opened the way for literature for young adults to speak about diversity and hard truths. One of the ways The Outsiders confronts class conflict is in its descriptions of rival gangs. Although these descriptions sometimes border on stereotyping, they do manage to convey why these two groups come into conflict so often. To represent this divide between the classes, and specifically between the Socias and the Greasers, I drew an imagined representation of Playboy's colored desk where he is writing his paper for English class at the end of the novel. On the left side, we see objects representing the Socias, and on the right side, we see things representing the Greasers. Each side also has a notepad featuring quotes that represent the thoughts or feelings of each group for itself or how it sees the other group. The space in the lower middle is Ponyboy's space and represents his feelings of not really belonging to either group. At the top of the page, we see a magazine ad for a Madras shirt. This is the preferred shirt of the Socias that form part of their identity, and they are expensive and referenced several times as something the Greasers cannot afford. Next to it on the left is a toy model of a blue Ford Mustang, the car driven by Bob, Randy, and the other Socias, who use it to patrol for lone Greasers to ambush, as happens to both Ponyboy and Johnny. It is yet another expensive reminder of the economic divide between the two groups. Scattered along the far left side of the page are Bob's rings, a symbol of wealth, but they also represent the physical power that comes from being wealthy, physical power that he uses to prove his superiority over Ponyboy and the rest of the Greasers. At the bottom left are cherries, representing Cherry Valiance, Bob's girlfriend. While Cherry finds commonality with Ponyboy and even admires Dally, she ultimately rejects the Greasers because she is a Soc and feels that their differences are too great to overcome. This is perhaps illustrated by something she says in the quotes on the notepad on the left. It's not just money. We're sophisticated to the point of not feeling anything. Nothing is real for us. We also have the quote, Greasers will still be Greasers, and Socias will still be Socias. Again, illustrating the idea that their social and economic differences are too large to overcome and that they could never find enough commonality to live together. At the top of this notebook here, we have How'd you like that haircut to end just below the neck, which shows the venom that the Socs have towards the greasers and vice versa. And also, they're right, you are a hood, an explanation that the girls give to Dally at the drive-in theater. On the right side of the page, we have a container of pomade and a comb, trademarks of the well-coiffed greaser and a symbol of their identity. Below that, a switchblade, perhaps the one Johnny used to kill Bob. Next to the knife, a plastic horse standing in for Mickey Mouse, the horse Soda Pop loved, but lost when its owner sold it. Ponyboy wanted to buy it for him, but a horse is not a luxury that the greasers could afford. Above the horse lies a paperback copy of Gone with the Wind, the book Ponyboy reads to Johnny as they lie low in the abandoned church. It's in this church that we really begin to see a depth of character and sensitivity in Johnny and Ponyboy that belie the greaser stereotype and help reject the Socs' single story of them. Towards the middle of this page, I drew matchsticks and a newspaper clipping of the abandoned church burning. This is an important event in the novel and a turning point. Ponyboy and Johnny rush in to rescue the children trapped inside, and even Dally, whose philosophy of life is to take care of number one, is shown to be capable of risking his life for his friends. This is also the event that leads to Johnny's death and Dally's suicide by cop later in the novel. Finally, on the far bottom right is a notepad with quotes that reveal the greaser take on life. And you can't win against them no matter how hard you try, because they have all the breaks, and even whipping them isn't going to change that fact. I wanted to cry, but greasers don't cry in front of strangers. Some of us never cry at all, like Dally and Two-Bit, Tim Shepard. They forgot how at an early age. You better wise up, Pony. You get tough like me, and you don't get hurt. You look out for yourself, and nothing can touch you. We're poorer than the Socs and the middle class. I reckon we're wilder, too. Greasers are almost like hoods. Lastly, in the center, there's Ponyboy's English composition, which I've used to place quotes that I felt illustrated Ponyboy's growth and rejection of being forced into life and existence not of his choosing. This aspect might be said to be betraying the overarching theme of class inequality, with its idea that if you work hard, you can overcome all obstacles and move up. I tend to think of it as simply Ponyboy deciding not to be labeled by society and to try to make his own path, regardless of whether he is able to raise his socioeconomic status or not. I think this is reflected in the quotes on his paper. The first, so Cherry Valance, the cheerleader, the Soc, was trying to help us. No, it wasn't. It was Cherry the dreamer, who watched sunsets and couldn't stand fights. Randy was supposed to be too cool to feel anything, but there he was, with pain in his eyes. Things were rough all over, but it was better that way. That way you could tell the other guy was human too. Finally, we have some advice for Ponyboy. Ponyboy, listen, don't get tough. You're not like the rest of us. Don't try to be. Listen, with your brains and grades, you could get a scholarship and we could put you through college. Don't be so bugged over being a greaser. You still have a lot of time to make yourself be what you want. There's still lots of good in the world. And finally, stay gold, Ponyboy, stay gold. This quote and the one right before it are what convinced me that this book isn't just a counter-narrative about class conflict, but is also a rejection of social labels. Playboy may be a greaser, but that label no longer has the power to keep him from determining his own actions.